following program is produced by Marshfield Community Television.
Guten Morgen.
Guten Tag.
Well, we just got back. Well, we didn't actually just get back. We got back from Germany already 3 weeks ago, yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a really busy last 3 weeks with all of our catering events for various events. So now we decided that we needed to catch up people on Matthew and Alana that we had not seen for over 7 months, and visited them in Germany, in Berlin, and Munich for almost 2 weeks.
Almost about 2 weeks, yeah. 5 days in each city.
Yeah, so it was really cool.
Munich,
you know,
it was fun.
Yeah, when we got there, we had 3 or 4 hours to spare, so we kind of walked around the area where we were going to be staying in the apartment.
Yeah.
And so then when we met up with them, then it was really cool. And we got to the apartment, and the first thing I did was pulled out the Glad box with our chocolate chip blonde brownies.
Yeah, snap lid box.
Yeah.
That I carried in my backpack all the way from Chicago to Berlin, and they didn't get crushed or broken because I was very careful with them. And Alana was
pretty ecstatic.
So pleased
Yeah,
that we brought
yeah.
something fresh from home. So she was excited about it.
But I guess the first part, I guess, talking about Berlin,
Mm-hmm.
we did a lot of sightseeing there. The weather wasn't always cooperative, but we
Yeah.
made the most of it, and we saw 5 really fabulous museums that were on this museum.
There's Museum Island. There's an island, the river that runs through the city of Berlin has got an island in it, and there's 5 old museums in there. Just fabulous things. Everything from, BC, we had, ancient Greece and Egypt. We had all kinds of things there, and then right up to modern times. And then there was a Deutsches Museum as well, and that was more from like World War I all the way up to the fall of the Berlin Wall. So that was a really fascinating museum too. So we had a great time.
What was really fascinating was, we lived during the building of the Berlin Wall and when it was taken down.
We saw it go up on the news, the nightly news, and we saw it fall on the nightly news. So that was kind of interesting.
And what was...
We're dating ourselves now, but you can probably figure that out.
So some of those churches that we visited were really beautiful, and
gorgeous.
just amazing that, they were partially destroyed in a lot of ways, and some of the museums too.
Oh yeah, they put the museums all back.
Some of the huge paintings that had been taken underground,
Right.
some were saved, and then others.
Some paintings were so large they couldn't fit them into the fallout shelters from the bombing, so they got lost. And another interesting point too, in one of the museums it showed you could see these huge oil paintings, and they actually took a razor blades and they cut the paintings, the oil, the cloth, the canvas out of the frames and rolled them up quickly and took them to the fallout shelters because the bombs were falling and they didn't have time to take the frames and everything with them. So you could see where the cutouts were around from the original paintings where they put it back together again. So yeah, you learned a lot. We learned a lot.
So
yeah, it was fun.
And I think that what's really amazing too in Europe and Berlin and Germany is the great transit system that they have.
Oh, yeah.
So of course we didn't have to have a car.
Buses, subways, and trolleys, above
Subway,
ground, below
above ground,
ground,
below
everything.
ground,
Yeah, that
so-
was just, and it was all one
Yeah.
system too. One ticket got you on any kind of transportation you wanted, so
Right.
that was kind of neat.
So then we were in Berlin for 5 days and 4 nights, and then we flew from Berlin to Munich. So that's when the real fun really started.
Yes.
Berlin has to be like the world's capital beer drinking place. I mean Munich, sorry.
Yeah. It is the beer capital, drinking capital of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, we might make a lot of beer in Milwaukee, but they consume a lot of beer in Munich, really. And we'll show you some mugs later on in our show here
Yeah.
of what we had.
So one of the fun
Let's get
things that
started
we
here on the
did
food.
was going to the Hofbräu house and the Augustiner house.
Yeah, Brauhaus.
Brathaus, and one of the fascinating foods that we ate were these humongous pretzels.
Yes.
And they would have the wait staff going around selling them. They had a big basket filled with these big pretzels, so they would go around selling these pretzels. So we
And
decided,
they were, no kidding, they were this large, these twist pressed, and they're soft pretzel, but the twists were that large, and they were like $3 or $3.50, weren't they, euro?
Right.
Something like that.
So the four of us could munch on that
could
while
eat
you're
one
having a
pretzel.
beer
Sure.
or
Yeah, that was
whatever.
kinda neat.
Yeah. So we decided instead of making those gigantic pretzels, we were going to try our hand at making
a little more
smaller
reasonably small
pretzel.
one. Right.
So that's one of the things we're going to make
So let's get
today
started here.
to share some of the food that we actually had in Germany.
Right.
So this is a soft pretzel recipe that we found, and we're going to start with 1.5 cups of lukewarm water. It didn't have to be boiled. It didn't have to sit out for a while. And 1 package of it's a quick Red Star yeast. So Gary is just going to stir that around for about a minute.
And it's going to get a little, it'll start out a little clumpy, but you just keep stirring it and try to get the clumps
And
worked
some of the
into
clumps,
water.
you know, the little lumps can actually
Yeah,
stay.
and that's okay, yeah.
When I was growing up, of course, my mother made bread all the time, and even some of the bread that I made, but she had the Red Star yeast was a popular yeast company, and they were the chunks of, or whatever you call them, of the yeast. And then they came out with the instant yeast, which I used to make when I made bread
So what is this?
years
This is
ago.
an instant
So
yeast?
this is an instant, but it's
Okay.
the powdered
Okay.
rather than the cake. It was
I
called
see.
cake yeast.
Okay.
So that's probably about a minute, okay?
Right, so it's
And
a
then-
little lumpy on floating around the top, but I just kind of keep.
Yep, and that's
working it.
good.
Okay.
So now we're going to add a tablespoon of white granulated sugar. The recipe called for a teaspoon of salt, but we're going to add a 1/2 teaspoon because we're going to have a coarse, and this is a coarse salt that we're using, and we're going to have a coarse salt on top of the pretzels. Now you can pour that into your bowl.
Okay.
And then to that, different recipes we looked at, but you can have all white flour, or you can have some,
Set that down over here.
some whole wheat flour. So what we did, we ended up mixing 1/2 and 1/2. So we're going to start by gradually adding 3 cups of flour, and you're going to stir as I add this. And then after you stir it up, you don't want it to be real sticky when the consistency when you're done. So then we'll add a little bit more after that. You actually had a lot of fun with making
kinda
these
like-
pretzels. We experimented, yesterday to make sure that we knew how this was going to happen. And you said that you never really had a chance growing up to play with.
To play with dough, right.
So there's the
That was
third
always,
one.
my mom always did that along with my sisters, and I grew up on a farm, so the boys did the work out on the farm, in the barn, and out in the fields, and the girls helped mom do all the baking and the cleaning of the house and getting food prepared, so that's how it worked.
And when my mother would make bread, I think I probably shared, she would make about 10 loaves every Monday. And it was always white bread that she would make, but sometimes she would also, we'd have real treats by making like dough cakes or raised donuts with the bread. But
Get my fingers in here pretty soon?
pretty soon.
Okay.
I'm going to add just a little bit more,
Okay.
and then you can.
Did you talk about preheating the oven? I just heard the beeping go.
So we preheated the oven to 425.
Okay.
And it took, I guess we were talking a little bit more, so it probably takes about 10 minutes for our oven to
I'll
heat.
bet.
So you can scrape
Scrape
that
this
off
off.
and then just kind of see how that consistency feels.
So you can see,
with-
I'm
with
trying to scrape
bread,
this off. It's a little gummy right now.
And with bread dough, as you're doing this, like I said, you don't want it to be real sticky, so you just kind of keep moving it around in your hands. And if you think it's ripe, then that's good. And then you can put it on
Okay, put it on
on
the mat.
here and then knead
Okay.
it. And that was the first time you had an opportunity to experience kneading bread. And this is really just
Do I just leave that
a
at the
little bit.
bottom?
Yep. Now we're going to
Throw it in there.
throw that in there like that, and then you can just knead that all in there. So just kind of move it,
Just kinda-
move it around, and then just kind of keep manipulating it as you move it. I'll hang on to this. This one doesn't like to stick very well. And as you're kneading the bread, if it feels a little bit sticky, then you can just add a little bit more flour
It's a
to
little-
that.
It's a little sticky
So
right
we'll just
now.
put a little bit more on
Okay.
top. You'll probably want to be making pretzels all the time now. That'll be your next best food item that that's you.
Right. Making and eating soft pretzels.
Right, and yeah, put all your dough in a ball, and the recipe calls for making them into about a 1/3 cup, and it yields about 10, and I think got 12. So I'm going to cut these, and then Gary really enjoyed rolling them.
I learned yesterday, first I was doing this to roll it, and of course they get, as you can see on the top, it gets all twisted up. So what I figured to do yesterday is you hold it in the palm of your hand, one palm up and the other one down over top of it, and you just roll it gently like that. So you just let it hang down off the palms of your hands. And just keep rolling it till you get to the diameter that you want. Usually about 18 or 20 inches is a good size to make the kind of pretzel we're going to end up with making today. As we were saying earlier in the show when we were in Munich, they had these giant pretzels, and they were probably, I want to guess, Ruth, I bet they were probably an inch and a quarter to an inch and a half in diameter. They were huge pretzels. So that's about the right length. I said about 18 or 20 inches. And now what you're going to do is you're going to form it in a circle, do a twist, and you lay it like that. And another little trick is just to wet the tips, and that'll help those pieces stick. Like these right
Okay,
here.
so right there is fine. Okay. So then after you have your pretzel made, then you're going to dip it in an egg wash. So you can just use one egg, because we ended up having 2 yesterday, or made 12 pretzels. I needed more than 1 egg. Mm-hmm. But otherwise about 1 egg, and then just dip both sides, and then put them on a parchment-lined cookie sheet. Okay, so we discovered that you can use margarita salt. We just happened to have some margarita salt on hand, so instead of just using the sea salt, we decided to use a little bit of margarita salt. So you can really just put as much salt on there as you want.
The ones we had in Germany, they had the real large coarse salt, and they didn't have as much salt on there as I'd like. They had just a few speckles of this large coarse, but this is a little more fine than what they had. But so
if you see this one really large, kind of elongated pretzel we have here, that was from our videographer, Brianna, made that. We decided we wanted to get her involved with making these pretzels so we could get them done a little bit faster. So, okay, yes, our oven is preheated at 425, so that's all set to go. So now we are going to bake for 10 minutes. Then we're going to make something else that was really fun.
You can use any kind of a wurst that you want. You can use a bratwurst, you can use kielbasa if you want, Polish kielbasa, any kind of mixture of a flavor meat you want. The currywurst, the curry sauce is the part of it, the currywurst, which makes it what it is. So it's going to be fun to make this, and it's very simple. I did some research on it, and the history of currywurst, it's been around about 65 years is all, and it started shortly after World War II. After a lot of Germany was decimated by the bombing, what happened was the British and American soldiers and a large team of people along with the Germans were trying to help build up the city from all the rubble that they had. And so this one lady in 1949 she decided what she got is she got some curry powder from some British soldiers who were working on the reconstruction of the city. So she got some ketchup and some curry powder and some sugar, and she made this and put some and covered it with covered the bratwurst or kielbasa with this, and called it Currywurst. So it has been so popular. In fact, I was just reading online this morning that there is probably, they're estimating they consume about 70 million currywursts per year just in the city of Berlin. Berlin is the main place where currywursts are sold, but you can get them other parts of Germany. It's too bad.
So as we were eating our currywurst, that was in between the museums that day. So we stopped, and it was rainy, and fortunately you had like a hooded raincoat, and I decided to throw in a couple of umbrellas, and they came in pretty handy that day.
Yes, it did.
So your recipe is?
Yeah, what we're going to do now to make currywurst, there's all different ways, different recipes, but one of the simpler ones is just to use a cup of ketchup. A lot of the recipes we had were taking tomato sauce, canned tomato sauce, and adding sugar. So if you get ketchup, you've already got the sugar part done. And then take a tablespoon of chili sauce. Again, that's for spice purposes only.
And again, many of the recipes
Didn't have chili sauce. I'm going to be generous with
It just gives you a little bit more of a kick to your sauce. Most of the recipes also did not have onion, but some of them had chopped onion.
In the currywurst we had in Berlin, you could see little chunks of onion floating around in the sauce. So we're going to add onion to that. Okay. And we're going to add, I'm going to take a 1/4 teaspoon. We're going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder, even though we got onion in there.
That's probably why they have the onion powder instead
Right.
of the diced onions. But if
And
you like
then-
regular bratwurst, you often have diced
diced
or
onions with it.
whatever on your.
Cayenne pepper, as if you watched our show in the past, you know that's one of my favorite spices. It's a little cayenne.
So a quarter.
1/4 teaspoon of cayenne. And this is where it gets fun. The curry powder, hence its name, Currywurst. Go ahead and stir that up there, honey. We're going to start with 1 teaspoon of curry powder and kind of stir it in slowly. And then we're going to put, most of the instructions, recipes we've read, it's add curry powder to taste. Well, you know, it's kind of funny when you think about it. This is a currywurst sauce, and the most important ingredient is the curry, and yet it says do it to taste. So I've seen some recipes where it was 1 teaspoon per cup of ketchup, or 2 teaspoons, some went up to 4 teaspoons. So it's going to be anywhere in between where you want that. So we've got 2 in there now.
Let's
reddish color. It's going to
color
start
starting
turning a little orangish color because of the curry, kind of yellowish orange. And the more you add, the more golden or yellowish it's going to be. Should we take that over to the stove now?
And again, different recipes called for it to be cooked for what, 10 minutes?
5 to 10 minutes. It said to boil it, but I'm not so excited about boiling a ketchup-based product because you can accidentally burn.
Otherwise, like many sauces that you make, they'll have you heating it on like a higher temperature and just like bring it to a boil.
Right.
And then reduce the temperature and simmer it, and that's what they're kind of.
Turn up a little higher to get it going. There you go. Add a little more curry. This is teaspoon number 3. Sprinkle it in there. I think that's going to be about
Where Potsdamer Place was. Platz. That's also where Checkpoint Charlie
Near
was.
there is Checkpoint Charlie and the Jewish Museum. There's also a memorial for all the European Jews from the Holocaust that were murdered. There was a big outdoor memorial to them, and just many items to see, many places to go.
This is starting to get pretty hot.
Start to steam a little bit. Okay.
And our pretzels have been in now for about 10 minutes.
I see the time ticking away.
And,
so we're doing a 2-for-1 here today.
and after 10 minutes, then, because they're still going to be light brown, or very light in color, then we're going to put the broiler on. And the recipe called for 5 minutes, and by the end of about 3 minutes, they were starting to get pretty dark when we were experimenting with those.
Yeah, when you broil anything, it's really important to stay close by because and watch through the window of your oven and keep checking it every 30 seconds or even more often if you have your broiler up high because you can really burn easily if you're not watching it.
And our broiler seems to be either high or low, so I'm just doing it on high, so then it'll get a nice brown, color. Do another
30 seconds. I think they get the little pan out. I think they're ready. Maybe move those over a little bit. No, they're done.
Oh, they're done.
They're done. So we're going to kill this.
Okay, let me.
Cut it into bite-sized pieces. Boiling beer, then throw it on the grill just to give it a little darkened look to the sausages, to the bratwurst.
So you pleased with our pretzels? I think they turned out.
Those are very nice.
Really nice.
I think it was all with Brianna in the twisting. Did you pick out which one's Brianna's?
Well, this one, look at that. Isn't that awesome?
That's an awesome one. I think that's going to be a new style.
So just like in Germany, we're just going to put our pretzels in a basket.
There's that one and that one.
These were some of the favorite mugs.
Yes.
Of choice from the Hofbräuhaus.
The Hofbräuhaus has these. And
this
is what you really drink beer out of. If you're a serious beer drinker, you drink out of this one. And if you had too many to drink through the evening of these, then there's somebody who's always your guardian angel's watching out after you, and she has you finish off with one of these. So that's what happened one evening.
So with our pretzels, we have a Polish mustard that we actually are going to use for dipping our pretzels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when we were in Munich, there was this like a city park. Oh, and these parks that they have, these beer gardens, they have indoor beer gardens and outdoor beer gardens. The indoor one, like the Hofbräuhaus, holds 3,500 people inside the building. It's 3 levels high, serves food in all the levels, serves beer, pretzels, you name it. And then the outdoor ones, we went to the Englischer Garden. It's in English, it's called English Garden, but the Englischer Garden had they had a Chinese tower, and it's called the Chinese Tower area of this garden, and it had 6,000 seating for 6,000 people outdoors. And they had the same kind of mugs as these. When we were at this one garden, this outdoor garden, they had these guys at the beer taps, and they had this great big stainless steel table with the little holes in it for the beer and water to seep on through. But these guys were drawing these beers, and they would fill these things up. They would fill it right up to the top with foam, and by the time it settled out, this line right here is the full line. So the foam would settle and the beer would come up, and it'd be exactly. And these guys were drawing these out just as fast as you could watch them. I mean, it was fantastic how fast they were going. I digress. So let's get back to our currywurst.
Finish our
before
currywurst now.
Cools down. I can get going on this beer garden stuff.
So what they would have basically would be just your cardboard or paper.
Little paper throwaway boxes.
So they would fit perfectly in this little paper. And then they put a lot of curry sauce.
Of sauce on top like that. And that's exactly the kind of volume of sauce you get with your currywurst.
And then they just put some more curry powder on top.
Like so.
And there's your curry wurst, and here's your beer. So.
Okay, so.
We're going to try this
one of these.
One pretzel.
Right, the currywurst is a little steamy hot right now.
And another sauce that would be really good with our pretzels would be a hot cheese sauce. Those are good. And I have to have one bite of our currywurst.
Fantastic pretzels.
A spicy hot. I think they are just as good as what we had in Germany.
At least as good.
Oh, that's hot.
It is good.
So.
That is curry-y or something like that.
Yes.
Very good.
So from Cooking with Ruth and a Slice of Heaven,
what do we say? Auf Wiedersehen.
until next time, happy cooking.
Happy cooking.
Where's my wine?
I'll get you a bottle in
That
here.
one's for you.
This one's for me. They're both for me. I knew that. Looks like it was a squashed heart. But it's nice. Actually, it's a new style. I think we're going to go with that.
We're done.
Thank you, Brianna.
Do it again.
Okay.